So, in this episode, I am going to show you how to make a photograph into a cartoon. So I'm going to share my screen. And now you can see my desktop. And let's see. So here is a photo of one I've already created. And I did a caricature photo shoot with silly faces with a friend of mine recently using a fisheye lens. So it created a lot of distortion, and I thought they would look good since they're already exaggerated as cartoon characters. So here's one I created. You can see the harsh outlines. As I zoom in, you can see the texture of it is sort of surreal and has like an oil painting texture. So it really gives it this surreal look, and I even added my signature at the very end. So if we go to the other image in this series, which was kind of poking fun at beauty standards, as you can tell in this image here of someone putting on makeup. Here's another one. This is where it started. So you can see the difference between the cartoon version, high contrast, very vivid, bright, saturated colors, same distortion, same lens, but also those dark outlines really help to add a animated feel. Okay, so going to our original document here, I'm going to select her from the background. So I like to start by making a copy of the background layer. And then you can choose any of these 3 different categories of selection tools over here on the left. I hope you can see my mouse moving. I think you can. I like the magnetic lasso tool because it will zip along that edge of contrast. So if I start somewhere, like on her hand, it knows that her hand is a different color than the white of the background. So notice it zips along there. Now you can go all the way around, blah, blah, blah. Or you can use the quick selection tool. So the magic wand tool would be really great if the whole background was white, which it's not. Or the quick selection tool allows you to just like click and drag, and you can paint your selection based on where you click. And it does a pretty good job of also finding that edge of contrast. So the edge between her skin color, her hair, and the background. If you want to subtract from your selection, there's different ways. You could either click up at the top where it says subtract from selection, the little minus sign, or you can hold down the option key. I find this to be the easiest because then it is like a paintbrush, just doing the opposite. Okay. Now to check our edge, because we want to make sure that this edge won't look choppy up against a separate background that we're going to be putting this on. So I'm going to go to select and mask. Wherever it's red, that shows what's not selected. So then her is the only thing that is selected right now. It's inside those marching ants. But as you can see, it's not perfect. I zoom in and I can see some issues. So if I hold down option and make sure that you have the second button chosen, which is the Refine Edge Brush tool. Did not know that's what that's called, but it's right here. You're going to try and find that edge. And sometimes it works better for others, or than others. It works pretty good with hair. So here you can see it's kind of finding the edge of that hair. Pretty good. And it finds that edge. So I'm just gonna assume that's good enough. Let's look at good. We could feather the edge if we want to down here, just feather the option. This is extreme. We don't want it that much, obviously. Maybe just a little feather. And then smooth the edge as well. Okay, so that's been Refine Edge. Now when we click OK, it's going to apply that to our selection, but we won't see it until we've copy and pasted that to a new layer. So I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, edit paste. And now you'll see if I hide all these background copies down here, what we actually have on this layer 1. So I'm going to double click and rename this, image. I don't know. It helps you navigate later through all of your layers. Okay, so that's my basic image. Now I'm going to make her into a cartoon. So to do that, first you want to make sure, whoop, hold on, my menu options changed. Go away. So I'm going to carefully go up here so I don't accidentally select the wrong thing. And we're going to choose, well, first of all, before we do anything, I want to make a copy because I might mess it up. So here I have a copy of that image. Then we're going to go to filter and we're going to add from the filter gallery poster edges. So now already you kind of get the feel of those darker edges, kind of like an animation. You can see the different levels of color have been simplified. So instead of like smooth gradations, it's choppy. It's like dark, medium, light. And that just gives it a very like hand-drawn, hand-painted feel. So my edge thickness is at 10, so it's like all the way. Edge intensity is less because if I turn that up, it'll find all of these little points on her face. So you can see if I turn this up too much, it's very dirty looking. So I'm going to turn that down to 2. Much better. And then posterization, that's what creates those levels of color. So that's going to be on 2. Okay. Now I'm going to click OK. And automatically she looks more animated. So that's moving in the right direction. To get rid of these little points that I was talking about on her face, like where it's darker, I am going to create that oil paint texture. So on this same image copy layer, I'm going to go to filter and then go down to stylize and choose oil paint. I'll leave it there for just a second in case you are following along. So this works well with pictures that are maybe a little bit exaggerated, not quite so high fashion, like a very serious pose may not work as well as one that's a little bit more laid back and silly. And this can be one of your enrichment activities if you wanted to play around with it. So stylize, oil paint, and then watch what happens once so right now my stylization's on 8, cleanliness is on 2, scale 3, bristle detail 2. Now you can play around with it and see what it does, but I think that creates a pretty good texture that you don't even see until you really zoom in, but it just gets rid of some of that posterization look. Okay. So now that is finished. She's already got a pretty good outline going around her, but we can increase this look by using this copy that we've made, or make another copy just to be safe. So drag it down to the copy layer button, which is next to the trash. And on this one now, we're going to go, oops, if this menu will go away, up to image, and then go down to adjustments. And I probably should have made some adjustments before I started in terms of lightness or brightness and contrast or hue saturation, but I can always make them after too. So adjustments, and then I'm going to go down to threshold. So now threshold is going to create just black and just white. And you can adjust the contrast based on this threshold level. So I would type in 49 to start out. That looks pretty good, so we can have like a line around her. Most of these areas are darker, but you can also increase it if you want more detail, say like in her face. So maybe 49 is not enough. Maybe we'll go up to like 60, something like that. And then click OK. So now, obviously, we want some of the color from this layer and some of the outlining from this layer. So we're going to put on a blending mode, which will blend the 2 layers together. So up here where it says normal at the top of the layers panel, if you click on that and then choose multiply, now suddenly we can see image copy through image copy number 2. So if we hide the top one, you can kind of see it doesn't really add much, but to the shadows it does. So if we want less, we can always lower the opacity to get something kind of in between. Okay, so now let's just hide this one for now. On this image copy layer, we might want to brighten this a little bit or increase the saturation just to make it look more cartoony. So I'm going to go up to, where's my adjustment layers? Up here. And I'm going to choose brightness contrast. Now, if this is ever not showing, you can find it under window adjustments. So any of these panels over here, if they get, closed out, you can find them in the window menu. Okay, so we might want to increase the brightness a little bit. Oop, my face is in the way. There we go. Give it some more ability to see it a little bit better. So we can hide that on and off to see which one is better. I like it brighter. Now we also probably want to add a hue saturation adjustment layer. So that's right here. And just inch the saturation up a little bit, just to really get the sense of like a painting or a drawing or something that's been animated. Okay, so and then we're going to turn this other image back on. It might be a little extreme, so lower the opacity just a tad. And then you can also do something cool with masking. We haven't talked a lot about masking yet, but that is a neat feature that's non-destructive. It allows you to change things about your layer and then go back later and change your mind if you want to, instead of having to go back, edit, undo a bunch of times. So if let's just turn all these opacities back up on this threshold layer here. So we already have a multiply blending mode, which makes the layer beneath it show through, but we might want that to be a little lighter in some places. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the layers panel. So if I click on the layer mask, this works like a mask that you would put on your face. So there's like holes for your, eyes to show through, and like a Venetian mask or something like that for Mardi Gras. So it works the same way for layers. So it hides part of the layer and then reveals something else. So wherever it's black on the layer mask is going to be hidden, and wherever it is white is going to be revealed. So it just works with white and black, and then gray is kind of halfway in between, like a semi see-through. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this does. So on this mask here, I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to change my brush. My signature is the brush right now. I don't want that. I want just a basic brush like this. And you can adjust the size in this preset picker. A little big, kind of a feathered brush, so it's got like softer edges here, which is perfect. Okay, and now black is my foreground color, so that means wherever I paint with my paintbrush, it's going to hide that part of the layer. So, I have my paintbrush. I can use my bracket keys to make it bigger or smaller just really quickly. And then I'm going to paint. Notice what happens as I paint. Ooh. Number one, the black area is showing up over here on the mask, and the layer beneath is showing through, but just in that area. So I can spot edit with masking really well. This is something that you can use whether you're making a cartoon character, or if you're just trying to make maybe someone's face a little bit blurry, you make the whole layer blurry, add a mask, and then you just reveal it on the places where maybe you want to get rid of complexion issues. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use masking to improve your portrait editing. I want to see her shirt. This is cool. I kind of like the colors there. Now, did I add anything with the mask? Yeah, it gives it a little bit more of a punk style, I guess. Maybe reveal some more details on her face. Maybe I don't like that layer at all because I'm getting rid of the whole thing. But it just gives you some extra ability to customize certain areas of your photograph. Okay, so now we need a background. My background here on this one was just white. I even like the one we made today a little bit better. So let's choose a different color. If we're going to come back down here to background copy. This one's the one that's hidden. You see it has like an ugly background behind it, or one that is just not very cartoon looking. So I'm just going to give it like a solid color, maybe a gradient. I don't know yet. So I'm going to create a new layer, layer 1. I'm just going to double click, call this color. And what color would be good? Let's see. She's got blue on her shirt. There's some yellow. There's some pink on her face. She's doing mascara. Zoom out a little bit. Let's do a blue. Okay, so there's different ways I can do this. I can do Command A, and I can edit fill. So I got to go to the foreground color. I can either choose a color, or I can go to this little eyedropper and say I want that exact shade of blue that's on her shirt. And then maybe for the background color, I want like that exact shade of blue. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. Oh, I keep hitting cancel because my face is in the way. Oh, shoot, I messed up. That's okay. Photoshop is very forgiving. Now, when I click on this, I'm going to hit OK instead of cancel. There we go. Okay, so we have the background's going to be kind of relating to her shirt. You can also choose to create contrast with the colors that are in your scene. So maybe the background could be orange, which would actually be a little bit more whimsical or a little more silly than the blues that I've chosen, but that's okay. So I can either choose to make it a solid color. It's lots of options. Command A to select all. So now you can see the little marching ants there along the bottom. And then I can hit Option Delete to just fill the background. Now you can see kind of the error that I made with like some of the, I didn't get close enough on the selection. So maybe this darker blue is just not as flattering as something else. So instead of, oh, and to do that through the menus would be to go to Edit, Fill, and then choose Foreground Color. So I just did the keyboard shortcut of that, which was, oh, it says Shift F5. So see, there's all different ways to do it. I did Option Delete. Okay, so if I want like a gradient, a two-tone gradient, I can grab the gradient tool and just go right over the top of this. And up here it says it's going to go from black to white. That's the default. I want it to go from the foreground to the background color, which were the colors I selected off of her shirt. So if I click on that, now when I drag, you can see that I have more choices. Or I could go at a diagonal here. Maybe I like the darker color behind her more. It's a little less obvious. I can create like a different shape. So like just the bottom half was this. I feel like she's kind of floating here, so I might need to crop in a little bit. So I can go to the crop tool, and this is more of a horizontal composition, but I could make it vertical or I can make it square. I just don't like how it ends at the bottom. So this looks a little bit more realistic. And we can choose to make it like a mirror, maybe. Like you'd be looking in a mirror doing makeup. Or I can make shapes in the background. So overall, that is how you make a regular photograph into a cartoon. There's lots of other options for how to do that, so feel free to look up a different tutorial online or go to layersmagazine.com. I highly recommend their tutorials. They're usually there's a video version. There's also step-by-step written instructions. They post a new video every day, and they've been doing this for years. So there's thousands of different tutorials and options that you can try on their, the official Adobe website. Or like I said, you can just Google on YouTube for various tutorials and things that you can try. Surprise me for your enrichment options. This has been how to make a photograph into a cartoon.